Welcome everybody again to season 3 of the Dozuki Workshop series. My name is Kate Emma Smith. I'm the Director of Outreach and your hostess. And if you wanted to get in touch with me at all, just feel free to contact me at kate@dozuki.com or on Twitter. And we want to welcome Brian Buss. So if you're just joining us, Brian, again, yeah, thank you. I can't even say it enough times. But for those of you who don't know what Cambio Services is, or maybe what CloudQMS is, maybe you could walk us through kind of a little bit about that part of your professional career and kind of to folks who might not know what it is.
Sure. So Cambio Services is a company that provides any sort of web application for global manufacturing, quality control, environmental compliance. My background being an engineer, I was a quality engineer, supplier quality director. And so Cambio is a company that says, what would engineering and quality professionals need? So we offer everything from web applications, database design, we do document scanning, any sort of service that companies need to maintain good compliance. And CloudQMS is one of our products. It's primarily focused on small and medium-sized manufacturing, and it helps those companies that might be doing logging and information in Microsoft Excel, or they're totally paper-based and they're taking up lots of space with file cabinets. It's the first step onto the internet. It gives them a out-of-the-box cloud system where they can keep all their records, and then they have the support and advice of people like myself who have been doing quality control for 15, 16 years.
Great. Thanks so much. So today we are going to talk about hacking your factory. And this is definitely content that has been so interesting working with you on, and kind of just rethinking maybe what hacking even means in terms of your factory. So just kind of a preview look at what you can expect during this workshop. We will talk about what we mean when we say hacking, talking about hackathons. So if you've never heard of that or you have been a part of one, we will cover that as well. Maybe about hacker culture, and certainly tools that come with hacking, things that are cost effective, that are easy perhaps to implement, even if you are a little bit wary of technologies. Brian has come up with some great tips and tricks for all of you today. So just to kick it off, what is hacking? What does that even mean?
Sure. Well, we're not talking about, breaking into your boss's computer or something. Hacking is more of an iterative, continuous improvement, and it's a way of kind of going about your job, saying, how do I make changes and how do I empower myself as one person to initiate that change? So, we're talking about an attitude, not necessarily just an action. And in an environment like an engineering facility, manufacturing, you have to have the understanding that there's going to be, problems are par for the course. There's always going to be issues, and I learned quickly as an engineer, you don't wait for someone else to solve those problems. You have to say, what am I empowered to do? What am I capable to do? How can I go off on my own, come up with a solution, and then maybe say, hey team, or hey, manager, this is what I've come up with, do you like it? As opposed to, oh, somebody really needs to solve that problem.
Yeah.
And waiting for it to, be done for you.
Because I know we definitely talked about it, that there's certainly negative connotation to hacking when you kind of just use it colloquially and people go, hacking, is that legal? What am I doing? I don't want to get in trouble. But at least from what, from what you're talking about, it certainly sounds more of just kind of improvements to the company, genuine initiatives that might be simple or kind of company-wide perhaps.
Yeah, well, it could be, if you think about an age group, right? New hires coming out of college today just have an entirely different background and skill set than, say, someone like myself. The managers that they're working with. So hacking could be taking a very simple tool that maybe for a 24-year-old new engineer or marketing person is very comfortable for them, but something their team has never seen before. So, or it could be something like using technology that you might use at home or something on your smartphone and saying, how could I apply this to my job? So there's a lot of ways, but again, it's about the attitude of how can I make my job easier or streamline what I do every day using tools that might already exist or bringing some new ideas to the team.
Great. I mean, it definitely sounds like it's all about creativity, perhaps, in your workplace. So there, you did give us a quote that I'm very excited about. It's a pretty hefty quote, but maybe just kind of pulling out some of the concepts. Definitely continuous improvement is something that you were talking about. And then I guess what else kind of drew you to this definition we have here of hacking?
Well, it's a great quote, and it shows that there is a home for hacking in a major company. And I'm not going to say who said that quote. A lot of people might say, oh, hacking is for startup companies, or, this would never work. Our company's too big. This is, for 5 people, 5-person organizations or something. But big companies also have to show, part of compliance is showing continuous improvement. In fact, if you're ISO certified or if you have a quality management system, you have to show a cycle of continuous improvement. Everything in engineering is about making things better, releasing a product, and so that just kind of brings back the hacking thing. And there's just some great things about challenging the status quo. And one part of this I like is that it says the best idea and the implementation always win. So it's not the biggest title, the biggest paycheck, the quickest solution. It's the best idea plus the implementation, because ideas are cheap. A lot of people say, I have an idea, but then they don't do anything. So the challenge is bring the idea and then do the implementation as well.
Definitely. Well, and I do want to address the who said it, if anybody has guesses out there. But just to kind of prove your point that it is not necessarily about small companies or small teams. But do we want to reveal?
Oh, of course.
The person who said it, Mark Zuckerberg, in letters to shareholders back in 2012, which I was really surprised about, at least. I mean, well, maybe not from Mark Zuckerberg, but at least, Facebook is a massive operation. And
well, then think about the context. Okay, so Facebook was founded in 2007. So we're 5 years later, and Facebook is now saying we can do the revenue, we can listen, we can have shareholders, we're going to continue our mission. And in this letter, and I would encourage anyone to Google search Mark Zuckerberg's letter to investors pre-IPO. So this is on the eve of their IPO, and he's basically saying, if you're going to invest in our company or you're going to have faith in Facebook, you have to understand how we work. And his, we just pulled out one part of that letter, but he's basically saying, you have to trust that we have an organization that operates differently. And if you remember the IPO, they came out at like $38 and immediately dropped to about $20. So that was kind of saying a lot of people question maybe his culture. But since then, they're up over $100 a share, and they've actually returned 173% to their investors in 4 years. So that's proof that having a defined culture and sticking with it can definitely spell success for any size organization.
Definitely. I'm so glad you brought that in. Absolutely. Because it's certainly not the way that most people, I think about hacking. And it's encouraging to see that kind of, like you said, it's very cultural, a company culture, and not necessarily just one action or one idea or anything. But we do have our first question today, which I'm really excited about. Robert Haskin, thank you so much for joining us today. He is asking, how do you set up a vision for empowering your employees to embrace, quote, hacking, but then also realize they don't have to have complete freedom to do just whatever they want?
Absolutely. Well, and we're going to talk about the setting up a culture of hacking. But I understand the question. I'm a quality director. So I was, a lot of people call us the policeman of the company. Quality's gonna write you up if you don't follow the rules. So there's definitely a way to set up the culture. and then but keep things aligned. And I think if you think about the demographics in a company, whether that's skill or age, you know, you have different personalities. You always have the people that are like, I have a great idea. I went home over the weekend. I built it, or I've implemented it. Let's use it. And then there's always people like, whoa, like, you know, change. I don't know how I feel. So there's always going to be that constant balance.
Sure.
And we're going to talk a little bit more about how to bring a hacking culture into the organization. So we'll answer that question a little bit, but it's a great question.
Definitely.
And definitely, you know, the person that asked the question says, yeah, that's a great idea, but you don't know my boss. Like, change is bad. What about the rules?
Yeah.
So I've been there, and there's definitely a way to accomplish it.
Great. Well, I know part of hacking, not just kind of understanding it, but implementing it, is hackathons. So just basics of hackathons is something we want to talk about, is having just a diverse group of open-minded individuals is something I know that you've stressed before. And just having kind of maybe that opportunity for fresh ideas is what you're trying to get with a hackathon.
Right. Yeah, and this is basically saying that there's nothing you absolutely need other than a group focused on diversity. So if you're trying to solve a technical problem, bring in the non-technical people.
Yeah.
Bring in the artists, the creators. If you have a marketing issue, you know, bring in the engineers. You know, bring in the people that are maybe in IT, because everybody's going to have a diverse background, and maybe what's natural for one person, you know, solves a problem or gives sheds some light on a problem, you know, that's outside of their typical job function. But yeah, you just need a group of people, open-minded. And what I mean by open-minded is people who are okay expressing their ideas and not necessarily expecting credit. So there's, like, if you think about an entrepreneur, somebody might have an idea for a business and they might keep it close to them. Like, I would never tell somebody my business idea because I don't want them to steal it.
Right.
Much like in a company, you might say, I have an idea, but, you know, I'd rather privately discuss that with my boss or mention it to the CEO in the cafeteria because I want them to associate this great idea with me.
Yeah.
And by participating in a hacker culture, you're saying, I'm going to openly voice my idea. I don't, you know, I don't want the direct recognition immediately. This is better for the organization in the long run.
Sure.
But then coming back, I mean, we'll talk about that more. Part of hacker culture is good recognition. So yes, you're presenting in a group. The group, you know, proceeds with the idea, and if it's successful, then it's like, hey, good job, you know, Kate, for bringing that to the table.
Thank you.
And but you know, we're all better here.
Right.
We're all better as an organization.
Great.
So.
So definitely part one, presenting those ideas,
Yeah.
and exactly what you're saying, you know, just having that moment of, you know, quote, maybe freedom to present them, kind of bar none, not kind of holding things back. But so, and what does this look like for you, this presentation? I hope it's not just a free-for-all kind of
Right.
everybody talking over each other.
Right.
And,
No, it's very free. I mean, you have to put this in the context of your organization a little bit. If this is a large company, maybe it's a specific department. If it's a smaller company, it could be anything. So what you do is you bring that diverse group. You say, you know, everybody, you get 2 minutes to talk about a problem or a new idea that's maybe close to you. So the marketing person might stand up and say, I think we should redesign our website, or we should implement a new application within our website. Okay, that's near and dear to a marketing person. An engineering or a manufacturing person could come in and say, well, there's this station in our factory that's just producing lots of defects, and it's about time that we fix it. So you write all that down. You give people like 2 minutes just to say, this is what I'd like to bring to the hackathon. And everybody who attends should stand up and say, what's one thing I would like to see fixed in our organization?
absolutely. So then part two for it, refinement and support. So I guess, yeah, what does that part two look like?
Right. So now let's say you've got 40. Let's say you have 40 people at your hackathon. You have about 40 ideas. At this point, some are kind of pie in the sky. What can we accomplish in a few days versus what would be months to implement? So at this point, I've seen it where all 40 ideas are put up on a board and people go by like a whiteboard. Maybe it's turned around, so it's a little bit of confidential voting, but you give everybody like a Post-it note or a marker, and they just check off like which of the 10, you start with 40, like which 10 ideas do people think they would really like to get behind.
Okay.
So you start to refine it down, and eventually the output is that you have 10 ideas, and then maybe you turn the board around, you have a little follow-up discussion. Okay, we're down to 10 ideas. We'd like to get to 3 or 4, because we want to have teams. And then everyone would be like, yeah, those are all great ideas, but for our first session, let's do these 3 or 4.
Very democratic.
Yeah, kind of democratic, but having some structure.
Definitely.
And at the end, then you pick 3 or 4 ideas, and then you ask people just to form teams to say, yeah, I'd like to work on that idea, or I'd like to work on that solution.
Great. And then part 3, breakouts and final pitches. So I suppose this is the part where we kind of decide which ones, which hacks, so to say, we're going to work on and who will be on it.
Yeah. Well, this is, 1 to 2 days. That's sometimes hard to do in a manufacturing culture. So you want 1 or 2 days, 16 hours. If you said, okay, we're going to spend this Friday, with our team, and then next Friday with our team, you could split it up that way. But ideally, you want to do it kind of in one fun session, recognizing that there's going to be a valuable output. So it's hard to tell a group like, we're not working today, we're gonna do a hackathon, but understanding that the value will be there.
Sure, yeah.
So during 1 or 2 days, those teams that have formed break out and just attack the problem. So they say, let's look at the factory issue, let's talk to the operators in the factory, let's tell them that we're here for the next 8 hours to put a solution in place. And that's where the diversity of your team, leaders will naturally rise up. Suddenly the marketing person will have we could build a really great visual aid or a visual communication for the operators. And the IT person's like, yeah, I've already, started making you some space on the server for that. So that's where the team really comes together. And then, so that's the meat, that's the working part of the hackathon. And then the last, we talk about is you want to make it competitive. So you've got 3 or 4 teams, tell them that you're going to pitch your idea as kind of like to a panel of potential investors when you're done. So make it a friendly competition. Sure,
have those incentives kind of just to get people excited about it, and
Yeah, I mean, they want exposure. They've spent a day or two working with the team, and they're going to be excited to show off what they came up with.
Definitely. So how do you plan a hackathon? I mean, so those are the 3 parts of it, right? Kind of getting everybody together, creating these great ideas, and then, of course, implementation. But planning a hackathon. So what if there are folks out there who are like, I still have no idea how to even go about creating this thing or this event, and you have some great kind of steps in order to get it underway.
Right. Well, first, the big challenge of a hackathon is getting management. It's like, hackathon, that sounds like a fun day.
Yeah.
No, the studies have shown that it really establishes your brand or your company as somebody in the community who's mobilizing. I mean, there's a lot of really great advantages for your company. So, there's some websites that go into more detail about this. But the first thing is saying, trust there is a value that's going to come from this. It's not a day off. Okay.
And not to get too ahead of ourselves, but out of curiosity, how often would you say a company should have a hackathon, or how frequently should these kind of fun, not so fun work days happen?
Well, the first one will be the hardest, and after the first one, you'll say, that went really well, management, or we can't wait to have the next one. Like, let's go ahead and schedule it. Or they'll say, we got a lot of value, We want to tweak it a little bit. We want to, bring it down. It depends on your organization.
Okay.
Some organizations are very open to this concept, and some are very closed, and it'll take a little bit more time. And, it depends on what you do and like a daily schedule. Some people might have to do it on a weekend, just to get the right team.
Right,
So
right.
that's going to depend a lot on your company and your organization.
Great. So step 1 to planning a hackathon. Invite people.
Yeah. So again, diversity is the key. So we're not talking about just employees, but what about local colleges?
Okay.
What about civic leaders? So, in terms of branding, what if you invited a local congressperson or a city council member? I mean, they love that kind of interaction with the community. You're going to get all the exposure you want as soon as you invite somebody like that. But those organizations also have problems, and they're like, okay, so you're inviting a government official and you're going to fill the room with a bunch of smart problem solvers.
Yeah.
Well, maybe they stand up and say, you invited me to a hackathon. I have a problem I'd like to put up on the board and for you guys to vote on. You never know which way it goes. So just making sure that you invite a diverse range of skills,
Okay.
and that you think about government, education, nonprofits in the area. They can all take part.
And this is applicable to manufacturers, and I guess what kind of industries do you see this most kind of hackathons happening in?
Well, for example, we just had one in Southern California, and there was a theme. It was medical device and agriculture.
Oh, okay.
So it was we had technology companies because some of the ideas came out, even something like low tech like agriculture. They came out with a really high tech product. And then the civic organizations were there to say, this is a great idea. Did you know that there's a grant available, and we've been trying to find somebody to award it to?
Yeah.
So you never know what happens when you bring people together.
Great. And then, of course, 2, you said the community's welcomed and everything. But number 3 is taking your hackathon off-site. So this was interesting. I kind of assumed that you would have it within your own space, or maybe down in the community kitchen or something like that. But you're recommending just we're going to have a field day, maybe.
Yeah, well, if possible, and that's simply just to get away from the distractions of the office.
Okay.
So yes, you're in your factory, you're looking at a manufacturing problem. You come, you take notes, but then you bring it back off-site. If you're not off-site, then people are gonna, they're gonna get stopped in the hallway. Hey, what are you doing? I need you, to do something. Or they're gonna stop by and check their email.
Yeah.
Or, check their voicemail, and then it's gonna be a big distraction. So taking it off-site. And the other part of off-site is it becomes a shared experience. So people be like, oh, remember when we did that? Marketing, IT, engineering, everybody coming together in a new environment. There's, it'll break down some of the barriers.
Sure, and I'm sure it feels, kind of fresh for people.
Yeah.
It's a clean space, kind of neutral territory, maybe. Yeah.
And it marks the occasion that this is something special. This is something new that we're gonna try.
Great, absolutely. Well, hopefully that space will, as number 4 says, have strong Wi-Fi.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we're mobile. You want people to be, you want people to bring their talents, their personal computers. I mean, this is all about, these are my skills, and this is how I'm ready to present it.
Great.
So just make sure that it's an open space, plenty of Wi-Fi, places for breakout sessions, things like that.
Perfect. And then number 5, this one is probably the most that I got interested in when we were kind of planning this workshop and everything, was title neutral. And this almost, I feel like, would be hardest for people to kind of get accustomed to, is kind of taking away these titles and not having kind of a flat hierarchy, or no hierarchy at all, really.
Yeah, if you succeed in getting people from the community, educators, civic leaders, family members, whoever you're inviting in, let people just exist in a team and a group, and not worry about what their role or their title is in your company. So you want the CEO working with the new hire, and you want, the interns there working with various people, because you're going to see some natural leadership evolve. You're going to notice people's attitudes are different outside of the workplace. maybe those new hires that have less knowledge of your company's details are actually going to bring the most, ideas into like a hackathon environment. And it's a time for, the typical leaders, the managers, the executives to kind of just sit back and listen, do more listening, and do not, start leading the team. That's what you do every day.
No micromanaging.
Yeah, no micromanaging, just when it says, hey, who wants to present? Of course they're comfortable presenting because that's what they do on a normal basis, but give somebody else a chance. Just kind of sit back and listen and let the other skills kind of rise up.
Certainly. And I mean, it sounds like within a hackathon and, having that creative moment and collaboration, I mean, you want people to feel like they're owning these projects or these kind of initiatives and everything. So certainly, I mean, that absolutely makes sense when saying, hey, managers, let the folks who are coming up with these ideas, really embrace it and own it and feel like it's theirs and they can,
Well, and you'll see the quietest person suddenly becomes the leader. And seeing people in the new light is one of the values of the hackathon. And you'll learn a lot about what the organizational strengths of your company are.
Great.
How individuals bring more than just their job title to their lives,
Fantastic. So then in number 6, the subject matter experts. I wasn't sure actually what you meant by this one or how this would kind of look.
Yeah. So subject matter experts, consultants, industry experts, they're on LinkedIn and they would do nothing more than to get their foot in the door of your company and to help out. So involve them, invite them to your hackathon. I mean, this is all organizational specific. If you're working on top secret products, you can't have your factory open or all that. But these people will make themselves available. I mean, as a quality person myself, in the world of consulting, if a company called me and says, we're going to have an open session talking about the issues within our company and it's related to your expertise, would you like to participate? I'd be like, absolutely. I mean, talk about getting your foot in the door and learning the people and learning the problems of the organization. So you can get some really high priced, typically $1,000 a day consultants to just show up and be part of the team in a relaxed environment.
Great.
And, you can even link them in virtually too. But trust me, I mean, I would almost get on a plane if the right company called me and says, we're having a hackathon. You have a lot of experience and skills. Would you be there? I'd be like, absolutely.
Come join us.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Very valuable.
Definitely. So then the next step in kind of planning is number 7, which recording everything.
Yeah.
So are we talking somebody with their iPhone just kind of hanging out or?
Well, yeah, I mean, you want to record the session, iPhone, I mean, having a little bit of better production, maybe at least a tripod so it's not really shaky, but record what happens, record the presentations, record the pitches. One, it's just good to have. You might want to share your experience of the hackathon with a different, like your sister factory in Europe. You say, hey, the California site had this hackathon. We had a great time. Here's all the, like the company newsletter kind of here's what happened.
Yeah.
When your other sites around the world are reading about it, then it's like, oh, by the way, here's this video. You can see how we did it. It also becomes kind of a marketing thing. So you publish, like the hackathon we just did. It was in our newspaper. The civic government definitely, made lots of plugs for it. Like, here's how we're interacting with industry. So you want to record it and keep a good record of what happened. Video, iPhones. It doesn't have to be perfectly. You can always edit it later on. But definitely take video and record everything.
Well, and I assume too it would just kind of relieve people of worrying about scribbling down everything and focusing on transcribing what everybody says. You now just can relax and just know that, all right, we can get this content back.
Yeah,
later,
and you want to capture those like light moments too, where there's a funny idea or somebody cracked up.
People laughing.
Yeah, people laughing, or
around.
something was said, or the CEO embarrassed themselves or whatever. So you never know what kind of gems you're going to capture.
Perfect. And then my personal favorite, number 8. Food is on the way.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Happy people are fed people.
Yeah,
so.
And don't let them go out for lunch because you'll lose them. They won't come back.
Or take like a 2-hour
Yeah,
lunch.
so you want to bring food. You want to keep the momentum going.
Okay.
Breaking for lunch. I mean, if you go as a group, that's fine. But if you're renting a space, or you're at at a co-working space, you're doing your hackathon, sandwiches are here. People are gonna be like, yeah, we're having too much fun. We'll grab one in a few minutes.
Don't break the zone.
Yeah. Don't make it too structured.
Great. And then the final step in planning your hackathon is number 9, the choosing the winner. How do you decide a winner, or what is that part of the kind of gamification of this, perhaps?
Yeah.
Or?
Well, think of it as you're pitching to investors. So you said, we have this product or idea, and if you were a startup company, you'd say, would you like to invest in my idea? Well, if you want it to become more than just an idea or a solution that was created during the hackathon, you need your people to invest in it, whether that's your management team or your boss or your CEO. It's like, here's the idea. Which would you like to put some money behind, or which can we continue developing as part of our job responsibility?
Great.
So, and it could be even like family members, VIPs. Again, you could have the city council member, the mayor of your town, on the panel. Again, this is a great chance. Maybe for those busy people that weren't able to attend the hackathon, this is the chance where they show up for an hour or two, they sit on the panel, like a mayor, right? What better publicity to say, this company together with this university had a hackathon, and we invited the mayor to be on the voting panel on the last day.
Yeah.
I mean, just
sounds pretty cool.
Just an idea. Yeah, and that's actually what we do. Cool. CEOs of other companies in the area. Great chance to bring people together.
Yeah. Would you recommend it being on kind of that more formal level of kind of analyzing and reviewing all of these hackathons versus just we'll email you guys what we think, or should it be a more public event?
Yeah, no, it should just be like panelists at a table.
Okay.
Each team presents for 5 or 10 minutes, whatever you allow.
Okay.
And then the panelists just kind of huddle up and be like, I really like this one, and okay, first place, second place, third place.
Okay.
I mean, there's no losers, and everybody understands. It's not like it's not as serious as it might sound.
Great. Well, not just having a hackathon, but we have talked about kind of more company culture. And for those who are a little bit wary of, I'm not sure if this is even related to me, or if I could even do this, I appreciate that you kind of put in building a hacker culture,
right.
Which is the next kind of part we wanted to talk about, is how to make people perhaps receptive to this, or start thinking in this way, in this kind of hacker way. And so from your experiences, what are your opinions on that?
Right. Well, I we kind of broke this down into think, hire, and practice. So the first part is the thinking part. Just some ideas here on thinking a little differently. Think first about selling a problem that you solve, not the product. So traditionally, everyone thinks sales is explaining a product. Well, what if you, instead of saying, I'd like to sell you this hammer, what if you said, you'll never have to struggle to pound a nail? Or I'd like to sell you a solution or an idea, not just the product. So you tell the story of the better way of life. So when you're explaining to somebody in your organization your idea, tell the story of where your company will be once your idea is implemented. Don't necessarily go into the details of the idea. Okay. Just say, wouldn't you like to have a manufacturing line that goes from 70% yield to 90% yield? Oh, absolutely. Would you trust me to put that solution in place? Of course. So you're already saying there's going to be value when I'm done, as opposed to, I'd like to improve yield by having a hackathon, and we're going to invite everybody off site for the day. And like, what? I can't afford to let everybody off site. See, the other way is you've already said, I'm going to improve your yield at this station by 20%. So they're already interested, and you have to trust me to get to that. Okay, I trust you. Okay, thank you very much. That's all I needed. Now you go to, implementing the ideas. Fail, then push past. So I was talking with Tim Draper last week. He's a venture capitalist in Silicon Valley, and his whole family very influential. And Draper University is something that he started, and they bring in 18 to 30-year-olds with great ideas, and they hire Navy SEALs, they hire extreme outdoor survival experts, and they put these young people through that. And they're like, oh my gosh, why would you send a young person who wants to be an entrepreneur through like a Navy SEAL boot camp? Because he said, we want to teach them that if they can survive any situation, then they can do anything they want. So it's fail, 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 then push past means you're gonna fail, but once you're okay, it's like, I failed, now I can begin. It's like you get that all mentally out of your system. So don't be afraid of failure.
Yeah.
And then the last thing is, forget what you learned in school, like specifically high school. So in high school, we were rewarded for fitting in. Everybody has the same shoes and the same brand and hung out at the same place on weekends, or saw the same movies, or watched the same TV shows. And then the funny thing happens, you go to college or you graduate or you start working and you're immediately recognized for being different. So, get ahead of that cycle if you're a young person right now, and say, I'll be rewarded for being different and having new ideas, not just maintaining like a status quo.
Definitely. The nonconformists out there. So
Yeah.
high school kids, don't worry, it's fine.
Yeah. So these, So these, survive high school any way possible, but
It'll be over
but
soon.
recognize, being different is going to be a good thing in a few years.
Yeah.
But so the think is, what every employee can kind of think differently to help contribute to hacker culture.
Great.
Then the next one is.
And then definitely hiring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is where, so you're a manager, you're a leader in the organization, you're saying, okay, I want to do my part to kind of change the culture a little bit around here. So when you're interviewing people, identify people not necessarily that have the exact skills that you're looking for, but the kind of people that are confident to speak their mind. You can always teach somebody what they need to know when they join your organization, but somebody who's confident can't be taught. I mean, people just come in with a confidence, or people that, challenge them in an interview, tell me what your opinions are on a certain thing, not just, tell me about your resume or what you did, identify that. Hire people smarter than you, don't be afraid to bring someone in that has more skills, and then equip them to do the job. If everything was good, you wouldn't be hiring people,
Hiring
right?
at all. Yeah.
Yeah, and, it's like the first day, talk to the new hire and say, remember, we hired you because we liked the ideas that you brought, or that you mentioned, or that you've done in the past, not because we want you to maintain the status quo.
Definitely. No, that's perfect, because you don't want to bring somebody in who can just kind of be another kind of enabler of what the problems you might already have. Yeah. Right. Absolutely. Right. And then your final one, leading, for certainly rewarding the process, not just the results. Yeah. Or the failure, which is is so important.
Yeah, because either way you're going to learn, whether the idea is successful or the idea was a failure. You want to reward the process. So if you have the hackathon, you have the people meet as a group, you brought them in as a diverse team. Reward that process. Don't like focus on, we spent 2 days and we talked about fixing this one station in our factory and it never got done.
Right.
The value of teaching people that, one, they're empowered to meet as a team anytime, whether we're having a hackathon or not. Meet on your lunch break and say, let's get together and fix a problem next week. We're going to do it on our own time. So reward that process.
Great.
And then so the earlier question, how do you kind of keep this reined in? Well, you want to balance out those that have expertise and those that are the creative thinkers. So the expertise, meaning the more senior people in your company, you want to sprinkle them into these teams. So you have a creative team who also needs to understand maybe the limitations of your product or your manufacturing process. Like, no, we can't, invest in some $1 million piece of software. It's just not going to fly here. But let's break down what is it that software does. Maybe we can do it ourselves. So.
Right, definitely. And then certainly, we want to give folks out there tangible things that they could try out today or tomorrow. Definitely hacking tools is something that I'm so excited you brought in, just because I think people who still aren't sure, well, what do I do with all of this information and this advice? We do have some tools for you folks in kind of the last kind of 5 minutes or so we have. So we wanted to bring them up. So hacking tools are, devices and software that you can use maybe in creative ways, hopefully not breaking the bank.
No. In fact, I think, so the goal here is I wanted to just kind of whet people's appetite on some little things that are out there, smartphone apps, websites that I've come across. I mean, some might apply, some might not apply. So, and the point is that they're either free or inexpensive or, nothing that would be beyond the budget of anybody. So
Definitely. Well, so the first thing that I certainly wanted to talk about with you is the Internet of Things.
Right.
When we talk about the devices and the software that you could potentially use, it does kind of come back to this phrase I feel like we hear all the time in blog posts and LinkedIn and Twitter. People are talking about the Internet of Things. And so what does that mean, and how does that relate to these hacking tools?
Right. Well, the Internet of Things is, so if you take people, so originally the Internet was a network of people. Communication, chat rooms and AOL, everybody talking, speaking their mind, creating, and then it was like, okay, I'm going to make my own website. And then it was like, now I have a Facebook page. I mean, everybody became a broadcaster. Here's what I'm doing right now. Here's the picture of what I'm doing right now. Here's how I feel right now. Instant broadcast communication originating from an individual, a human. So the Internet of Things is the exact same thing, but it's originating from machines.
Okay.
So machines that say, right now I am at this location and I am, running at this temperature, and that's too hot. Somebody needs to come. Something's wrong, or I'm having a malfunction. And that's kind of a non-technical way to describe the Internet of Things. So every device, the stats are kind of unbelievable. 212 billion devices, by 2020 are going to be online broadcasting like their feelings and their status. And it's like, here's you're gonna have a home dashboard, and it's like, it's this temperature at your house, and the air conditioning just kicked on, and it's been running, and it's been consuming this much energy. Everything's going to be talking. So the Internet of Things is really going to open up a lot in terms of, how manufacturing runs.
And change it just irrevocably.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there's just no kind of getting out of it. It's inevitable, it seems.
Yeah.
So the first, tool we wanted to talk about is Dweet. It's just Dweet, right?
Yeah,
it's
Dweet.io, which I believe kind of speaks to tweet, but from a device, so like a Dweet. So the Dweet company, and I have no affiliation with them. These are just websites that I've experimented with and tried out. So the Dweet company said, okay, if everything, if all these devices are going to be broadcasting data, we want to make it easy for humans to get that data. So they came up with a scheme to do that. And I have kind of an example.
Yes, we have a live example for you folks today. So there's this is your phone is actually communicating right now with a site.
Right. So if you go to the Dweet homepage and you say like try it right now or something, you can download a simple app. And this is my Android phone. It's just a Samsung phone, and I have the Dweet app running. And you turn it on and you say, go ahead and broadcast. And keep in mind, from a free trial perspective, this is a public broadcast.
Okay.
But instantly, the Dweet system lets you. It broadcasts, like right now, it's saying accelerometer X, Y, and Z. So anytime I move my phone, it's
all the numbers
it's real time. And if those that are participating in the webinar, if they click on the Dweet.io, website there, the CloudQMS/April, they're going to see real time. So we have some lights in the room here. I'm going to cover up the light sensor, show it. Everything is real time. So this is just an example of how machines are going to operate. And they're already operating this way. and Dweet just says, okay, how do I take that information? So if you have a machine on your factory floor, even if it's a legacy machine or certain things, there's devices that you can install that then gather temperature, time, light sensors, position, and then that device can broadcast in real time.
Fantastic. Great.
So
after our fun kind of live example, you also have the Wi-Fi aware is something that we wanted to chat about too.
Yeah. So so your machines are broadcasting information and maybe humans are looking at it, but Wi-Fi aware is when machines start sharing information between them.
Okay.
So what if your manufacturing press that takes compressed air to operate, yes, it's broadcasting a pressure, but what if it actually connects to the shop air system that provides it and says, hey, my pressure's too low, and the regulator mounted on the ceiling is also connected and says, okay, I see that the pressure's too low, let me ramp up your pressure.
Right.
So it becomes machines talking to machines, and talking to each other, and eventually solving their own problems if the human code kind of allows that.
Definitely.
So it's like a self-optimization. Another analogy is we have smart cars. What if they're all on the same freeway at the same time and they just start talking and saying, hey, we're all going 40 miles an hour, so all of a sudden one slams on the brake because there's like a obstacle in the road. Well, every car behind that would say, there's an obstacle ahead, slow down or change lanes. And Wi-Fi aware is this kind of technology that's coming online right now.
That sounds terrifying, but exciting nonetheless. Terrifying and exciting. But the other tool that we wanted to talk about is voice recognition. And I don't know if we're talking about just dictation, do you mean, or what do we mean when we talk about voice recognition?
Well, I brought this in just because voice recognition is very mainstream. I mean, when I worked at Ford Motor Company in 2004, we worked in the interior systems, and having an air conditioning system or a radio that was voice activated was cutting edge. I mean, and here we are 10, 11, 12 years later, and voice recognition is as commonplace as talking to your phone, Siri, Google Voice, whatever. So now, using that same technology and those voice recognition engines, there's some basic apps that you can use, whether it's just saving yourself having to type out an email. There's a couple examples.
Like SpeechPad.
Yeah, so SpeechPad. So Google
Okay.
Chrome is a web browser, and SpeechPad's an extension. So you can install that, and what that allows you to do is you can fill in any website or application using speech. So you could help your operators in your factory floor. Let's say there's a database, and you say you need to record what parameters you're running at. Well, if they're busy building things, you can now use speech recognition to help them fill out like a website or a database.
Okay. Yeah. We also have the dictation, which is another kind of service that you can use.
Well, Dictation.io, I mean, you can go there right now. It's totally free.
Okay.
And this is a screenshot. You load it up as long as your computer has a microphone, like a laptop. And this is, you can see the screen on the left. If people can kind of read it, it's exactly, I said, I'm going up to the Dozuki HQ. I'm going to do a presentation. And you can see how accurate it got my sentence. There was a few typos. But this is a website you could use today. Instead of typing out that email because your hands are a little bit sore, you can talk right to your laptop, then copy and paste it and send it off.
And then speech notes is fairly similar to
Yeah,
that, right?
yeah, and I like speech notes because they explain how to do punctuation a lot better. It's like, insert period, insert question mark.
Gotta watch
insert.
that grammar,
Yeah, so there's like a little sub language that you'll master, and then you'll never have to hit the keyboard again.
Great. Well, then another type of tool, we wanted to talk about productivity apps. And we have one here that was interesting. It's Cozy Magnifier and Microscope. And this is particularly for folks out there who are into the very small products. But what does this one do?
So I worked in contract manufacturing, building sensors, and I was the global quality director for a company. And so a lot of the defects and things that we were working on were very small. And the cameras that we had, around the factory just couldn't zoom in with the level of detail. So I looked at my smartphone and I was like, it's got this huge, so many 16 megapixel camera that I never use. But yeah, so it's a very low cost app. I think it's like $2 and it's definitely worth the price. And it lets you take your smartphone and it turns it into a microscope or a super macro zoom lens. So you can capture, you can do a real-time look at a very small detail and then capture an image of it.
Perfect.
Very useful in any manufacturing.
Yeah, and then finally, the last type of tools that we wanted to talk about was the collaborative web apps, which is so with this hacking culture that you've been talking about. Is certainly collaboration is key, and one of them that you use is creately.com.
Yeah, creately.com. Again, just a website that has a great offering in terms of what it is it lets you come up with they have all sorts of templates. So for manufacturing, you can search Creately value stream map. Like if you're into lean manufacturing, you can do a value stream map. And then what it lets you do is you can bring in team members. Okay. So there's one website, you could have 10 people viewing the content on one website, and whatever changes are made, they'll see that in real time. Anybody can take control of the mouse, and it's like sitting in a room working on a whiteboard, but maybe people are all around the world. Okay. So, and they have lots of great templates. Search, Creately process flow chart, Creately organization chart, corrective action. If you're in quality, any of the manufacturing templates, you just kind of search in Google.
Fantastic. And that's something, Google and Excel is certainly one that you were chatting with us about.
Yeah. So this is an example of what we call URL hacking. And URL is your website, www such and such. So if you look at the Google image search, you can actually hack the URL. If you search things on Google Image, so in this case, I've searched for a certain type of device that measures temperature. So in the top left corner of the screen, I have, in quality, we maintain a calibration recall list. And it says, these devices in our factory are calibrated every year or whatever is necessary. And oftentimes people keep a list in Excel of those devices or equipment. And I said, hey, it would be really nice if I said, hey, Kate, you're the manufacturing manager for this department. You need to surrender this device. And you're like, I don't know, what's an EVI, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. I don't even know what he's talking about. Well, by using this URL, I put a link right in the Excel file that does a Google search. Okay. And it reads what's in the column B and C, and it just plugs it right into a Google search. So you could say, what device is he asking me for? Oh, well, here's 50 pictures of that device. Oh, yeah, I've seen that around. I know exactly what that is now.
There it is.
And as after the show, there's an Excel spreadsheet that we can send out to the participants that actually has this built in, and then they can just hack it up.
Yeah. Well, fantastic. Those are some of the tools. Of course, there are a lot more, which if you wanted to contact Brian about them, he's got more. I know we talked about GIFs Jiffies that we weren't able to include today, things like that. But we are ready for any live questions that you have, and we've got a couple minutes for them. But I before we kind of get to questions, or while you're all thinking of your questions right now, maybe you could talk a little bit about the GIFs. We weren't able to include the slides, but when I think of a GIF, I think of something I send to my mom of a funny kind of expression or something. But it's more than just the social media and everything. Yeah, and this is kind of it puts a date on my age too. But the animated GIF or GIF. Essentially, find a teenager and ask them what an animated GIF is. But they're super popular. But an animated GIF could be used in a manufacturing sense to demonstrate a series of operations. So let's say that you're explaining to somebody how you build something like an assembly. Insert tab A into slot B. The animated GIF is one image file that can actually cycle through multiple frames. So you can say, first do this, then hit the button, then test it, and all in one file. So it's an alternative to a video.
And in some cases, there's some tools that'll convert videos that you take to animated GIFs.
Okay.
It's one file you just have to send. I mean, there's a couple shortcuts there.
And would you recommend certain people using GIFs over maybe a short video or vice versa? Is there really a benefit to one over the other, or does it kind of just depend on what you need maybe?
Well, you can actually you can show a sequence of steps with a lot lower file size. So a video tends to be very large files in terms of size. If you think of work instruction or a factory where you have, you might not have the space to store 100 videos of assembly operations or things. An animated GIF could afford you a smaller size. There's a couple advantages.
Okay, great. Well, it's just one question also that I wanted to kind of ask about is I know that we had some folks earlier kind of asking about, what's just if I had a manager or a supervisor that, is like, what are you talking about? Hacking? Like, this is crazy. Like, and you're like, no, I watched this web workshop on it. It sounds great. I guess maybe what's a takeaway or two that you could give our audience members who are a little bit wary of bringing it back to home base and, they're revved up about it, but they're not sure how to present kind of this concept to folks.
Right. Well, definitely, look on YouTube for hackathons. There's people, like I said, record everything. There's co-working spaces and people that have done hackathons and they record it. So make sure you have a clear understanding if this concept is new to you after talking about today. There's lots of examples on YouTube. So have a firm, be very clear on what you're describing to your manager. Because if they throw a question at you and you're like, I'm not quite sure, let me go check on that, then it's dead in the water. But other than that, like I said, sell the solution, not the method, right? So you say, hey, we've been talking about improving this factory yield or solving this defect. I'd like to lead that, and I'm gonna really get the team to do a deep dive and to really look at this problem.
Okay.
Would you trust me to do that? And if they're a good manager, they'd say, of course I would trust you to do that. In fact, that's a great problem, and I'd love it if you solved it. And take that as almost permission and say, okay, you said I could solve it. Here's what I want to do. I want to get the team together for a day or a few hours. You have to kind of feel out but start with that concept of, I'm selling you a solution. I'm not explaining to you exactly how I'm going to do it.
Right. Do you ever see kind of a consistent kind of point of resistance for managers, so to say, that seems to just constantly be the one thing that they have a struggle with, either that they don't understand what hacking means, or they're kind of resistant to that type of progress, or even like you said, just openness?
Right.
Is there something that just kind of always pops up?
Well, every company has to show their continuous improvement cycle. So, if you really have a trouble, as soon as the word hack is used, if that sends them into a spiral, call it continuous improvement. ISO certified companies have to show that.
Okay.
In a lot of companies, there's the lean manufacturing group. Well, they talk about Kaizens, which is like kind of like a hackathon.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just using familiar terms, but then going about it a different way. Like Kaizen might be familiar to your lean manufacturing expert, and you say, I'd like to schedule a Kaizen. And they're like, yeah, we need those. But then use the tools of what I've described to put in place a Kaizen, but it's really a hackathon.
Yeah, we're just gonna hush that word for a minute and then just say, I made you do a hackathon.
Everybody knows, there's a lot of, everybody says I have the newest, latest, and greatest, and a lot of times it's just a different terminology or word.
Sure, we're just dressing it up differently.
But the secret is, and people are free, we'll have our contact information. People are free to talk to me. If you're really running into a roadblock, I can provide definite examples where major companies participate in hackathons. They got great press from it, free newspaper articles, free PR. I mean, that's just a press release alone is thousands of dollars. I mean, if you could get written up in the local city newspaper, I mean, marketing alone would say,
it's great.
Yeah, our hackathon might have cost us, $5,000, but just one press release would have paid for that.
Yeah,
So.
absolutely. Well, we do have a question from a gentleman, Jake Wheely. Thank you so much again for joining us. Who's asking, I imagine our guys will see this as an additional work we're putting on them. How would you suggest getting management to let me take some sections of a workday for this instead of some outside of a work event?
Right. Well, as you know, as the asker knows, the reason that you're paid every day is not just to work.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I did my 8 hours and you can pay me. It's to solve and to develop solutions. So it's the solution that has the value, not just the time that you put in. So again, it comes back to sell the solution, not the process.
Definitely.
You know, so it's not extra work if you have a problem. I mean, if I'm an operator and I know that for every 100 parts that I test, 10 are going to fail, that's a lot of wasted time. And I mean, any engineer or anybody who works in a factory can easily put a cost around those 10 failures. They're rejected, they're put into a red box, they're kept aside, then they're retested. That's thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Easily the kind of scale of money that could pay for a hackathon.
Definitely.
So, to the teams out there, you sell a solution and you say, it's already costing us money every day. If we could fix that machine so that it just yielded a 2% defect rate, you'd have 8 good parts. We sell those parts for $100 each. Boom.
Yeah.
We pay for the hackathon in 1 week or 2.
It's the long game.
Sell the solution.
Yeah,
sell
absolutely.
the solution.
Well, we are just about out of time, but if you wanted to continue the conversation, you are more than welcome to. You can, of course, reach me at kate@dozuki.com. And then, Brian, thank you so much for giving us your contact information. So if you had any questions about hacking tools that he would recommend, or just kind of, what was that again? I didn't quite catch it. Definitely bbus at cambioservices.com. Is there anything else that we didn't cover that you wanted to make sure that the viewers knew?
Well, I could talk about this all day,
Yeah,
but I mean, it's there's a lot of opportunity. I mean, I chose engineering as a field, and I love doing it now because there's so many problem-solving opportunities everywhere you look. But realize you're not alone. The software, like the tools we presented today, they're all individual level things. You don't need a CFO to sign a $5,000 check for you to get started. Those are all free things. Just showing your boss something like the Dweet.io or the dashboard and saying, hey boss, look at this. This is a real-time thing. What if we could get that hooked up to our manufacturing testing machine? And be like, whoa, I've never seen such a thing. Can you do that? Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
Boom, we'll go work on it. And once you've hooked up that machine, hook up all our machines, and then now you've got like the blank check from your boss to work on something, 10% of your time, and then deliver.
Great. Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. You had such great knowledge today, and we were thrilled to have you. So
great. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for joining us. Hopefully, we will see you again for the next Dozuki Workshop series. Again, feel free to ask Brian or myself any questions that you have about this or anything else that has to do with hacking. But y'all have a really, really great Thursday, and hope to see you next time. Thank you so much.